All right, job number 4. So from the service panel, the cable goes through to the light first, and then it goes down to the single pole switch. Now, this one is still going to make the light work, but it just changes the way the cables run. In this one, you can see how there is more cable wasted. So you run a full cable all the way across the room and then run it over to the light. It's probably easier, but in this second scenario, job number 4, if you look at it, the cable runs halfway across the room and then halfway here. There is less waste of material. So on a job site, this would be important when you're bidding and obviously trying to cut costs and use less cable. So this is more efficient and you can still make it work, but you do need to wire it up just slightly different. Now in this scenario, do you want your light to be on all the time? In this scenario, when you come through here, we're still going to have 14.2 with ground, 14.2 with ground. So it's going to be black, white, ground, black, white, ground, black, black, white, white, and our ground. So we do not want power to go to the light first. A lot of students make this mistake right off the bat, is they take power from the service panel and they go right into the light. But if you think about that, your light's going to be on all the time, 24/7. Do you want that? No, you do not. You want your single pole switch to control your light. So if this switch always controls the load, where do you need to take power? That's correct. You need to take it to your single pole switch first. So instead of taking it here, we're going to be bypassing the light with our supply wires, because supply is always taking it to the switch. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to draw this wrong to start. So I just want to clarify, if you're drawing this, I'm drawing it wrong to start. Okay. I'm going to make the mistake for you so that you don't do it in person. Okay. So I'm drawing it wrong to clarify, and then I'll change it in a second. And this is the part that Nick was talking to you about the other day. Give him a round of applause while you're at it. You did a great job while I was coughing away there. So right now we have supply bypassing the light, going up to the single pole switch, and then from the single pole switch, we need to take power back to here. Now what are we left with? We're left with a ground and a white, neutral. Now you're never, ever, ever allowed to use a black wire as a return wire, but you're allowed to use a white as a supply. Now if you do that, what do you need to do? And we talked about this. You need to use black tape and mark it with black tape one side of and mark it with black tape in the other, and that converts this white, which is typically only used as a return, as we did in job number 3, to a return, or to rather a supply in this scenario, and that's okay. And then we finish up the white return to the silver here. So power comes in on a supply, bypasses the light, goes to the single pole switch. When power goes on and it flips the switch on, it will go through the single pole switch, takes power to the light, goes through it, and then it has a return path for a complete circuit. Now, if you do this, it is technically correct. There's not an electrical inspector that's gonna say this is wrong, but as a common courtesy, if you didn't have this black tape here and a homeowner came along and saw 2 white wires, they might be a little bit confused. Now, if they were smart, they would just take a picture of it or mark it with tape or somehow identify it and make sure that this same wire goes back on the brass and this white wire goes back on the silver when they change out the light themselves. But if they don't do that and they take off the light, don't identify these wires, and then come back later and say, uh-oh, what did I do? They could get them mixed up. So what can you do to avoid that for little old grandma or someone who's changing out their own light? You are going to basically switch these 2 wires. So this is going to turn into a white one right here. And you're going to mark it with black tape just as you did before. And then this one actually is going to turn into the pure black wire. as the supply. And they're still being used both as a supply, so there's nothing wrong with this. But then you don't get anyone confused in the future when they go to change out this light. And the reality is you're still going to have a white and a black in here. And if the switch is going, let's say for instance, someone mixes these up and when you turn the light switch on, but the light goes off, well, then either you just take the light switch if you can and switch it with the terminals, not the terminals, you take it and actually literally rotate it around, or then they know, oh, I just mixed up the terminals, and when the light switch goes on and it actually goes off, well, I mixed up these wires, and you just would reverse them in that scenario. So it's hard to get this wrong, but you want to make sure you get this one correct. All right, hope that makes sense. So that's job number 3, and job number 4 broken down for you.